Let's talk about Van Halen. I just made a video about Eddie, and I asked people specifically if they wanted more information about this album. And across platforms, the response was overwhelmingly yes. So let's pop back to February 1978 and look at the release of this iconic record, Van Halen's debut self-titled album. So as I said in that video about Eddie, Van Halen started out with him on the guitar and his brother Alex on the drums. In the early 70s, they met David Lee Roth, who was the nephew of the guy who owned the famous Cafe Wha in Greenwich Village in the 60s. He joined as lead singer, and a short while after that, they replaced their original ambivalent bassist with Michael Anthony Sobolewski, who had gone to college with Eddie in Pasadena. They were originally called Mammoth, but around 1978 they changed their name to Van Halen because David Lee Roth claims that he thought it was a more prolific sounding name, similar to Santana. He wasn't wrong. I also mentioned that Gene Simmons saw the band and tried to get them on Kiss's label, but you know how things go with Kiss, so of course it fell through. But Gene did fund their first demo recording, which would include songs that would end up on that first album. They were later signed by Warner Brothers to a very basic rookie contract that was typical for unproven bands. They recorded the album in just 3 weeks at Sunset Sound Recorders in Hollywood in 1977. They didn't have a lot of material prepared, so they basically just recreated what they'd been doing in their live shows in the studio. This is how Eddie's brilliant instrumental track Eruption came to be. Just a jam that turned into something iconic. The way Eddie Van Halen plays his guitar is like controlled chaos. It's raw, but it's also ridiculously tight, making even the flashy stuff feel kind of punchy instead of show-offy. Every track has this kind of reckless confidence, like every member of the band knew they had nothing to lose and played like it. When it was released in America the following year, it was a massive success. They opened for Black Sabbath in 1978 on their last tour with Ozzy. Critics at the time across the board explained that when this album dropped, the thing that made it so big was that it was the answer to what music needed at the time. The genres were fiercely split in the 70s between arena rock, punk rock, and the growing underbelly of heavy metal. Van Halen combined elements of all three of these genres in their performance, their recordings, and in their approach to rock stardom. The contract that they signed included a standard royalty rate, but unfortunately, they didn't own their masters. The band were also responsible for paying back promotion, production, and touring costs, meaning that despite the massive success of this album and its position as one of the most successful debuts by an American band ever, the guys were left with massive amounts of debt that they wouldn't be able to pay back for years. The music industry was wild back then, man.